Wow, look at these. So it looks like we maybe have a little bit of cat facing going on here. That's okay. But these are looking really good. Cannot wait for those to ripen up. This is a variety called German Queen. Hey, welcome back to Firebranch Farm. I'm Amanda, and today I just wanted to do a little update on my tomato plants and also show you some of the things I'm starting to see with them. We're definitely seeing some pest issues and some disease issues starting, which is very typical for this time of year. Okay, here's a look at my tomatoes. They're actually looking really good for the most part. I actually don't have a whole lot of yellow in leaves, different things like that. What I am seeing a lot of, though, is just some stress associated with the weather. It's been really hot, really dry, and most days we have gotten so much wind. So what I'm seeing when I first look here is some of the varieties are really starting to curl their leaves. So look at these leaves. They're really starting to curl. You can see. So there's a few different reasons your tomato leaves could be curling. In my area, at least, I know that my tomato leaves are most likely curling from the weather. So tomatoes can curl their leaves if it's too hot, too dry, too much wind, and frankly, we've had all of those things happening all at once here. So tomatoes will curl their leaves to help reduce the surface area. If they're getting too much light, they can curl their leaves. Also, if they're getting not enough water, they're getting dehydrated, they'll curl their leaves because they're trying to reduce the surface area that could be losing that moisture. So as you can see right here, this one's probably my worst one. You know, this one has got a lot of leaf curl going on. And this is a Mr. Stripey's right here. But then if you just move down a little bit, we have a Brandywine, a pink Brandywine, potato leaf variety. And as you can see, it is not curling its leaves near as much as that Mr. Stripey's. And then if we move down here, we have a pink Jazz. And this one is really not curling its leaves. I mean, the very tips, see that, are curling, but for the most part, they look really good. So all these are kept, you know, within about 4 feet of each other. They're right here, the ones I showed you. So that proves that just different varieties will cope with your environment in different ways. Here's another issue that I have just been noticing this last week. Look at these leaves. Look at that. So this is due to flea beetles. And I actually came out last night and I found a lot of flea beetles on these plants, and I sprayed them with neem oil. But you can just see the amount of damage that they're doing. What I am going to do is I will clip off this branch and get rid of them. So you do not want to throw these kind of branches in your compost pile. Anytime you're taking a diseased part off of your plant or diseased fruit, do not throw it in your compost pile. Because if you think about it, if you are letting that disease stay in your compost pile and then you use that compost the following year, you could absolutely be just continuing to introduce that disease back into your plants year after year. What I like to do with them is I like to burn them. We have a little burn barrel, or I'll just bag them up and I'll just throw them in the dumpster. Another thing to look out for in summertime, especially if you're getting a lot of over 90-degree days consistently, is something called blossom drop. And that's basically where you will see your blooms on your plant just dry up. So they'll get brown, they'll dry up, and they'll just drop off. And that's just the plant, you know, saying it's just too hot for me to produce this fruit. There isn't a whole lot you can do about that if you're growing outside. Now, I know people that grow in like polytunnels and stuff like that use shade cloth over their plants, and they have definitely noticed a difference in keeping their blossoms on their plant. But out here, you know, it just kind of happens. I'm actually not seeing a lot of it right now, and we have absolutely had 90 plus days. We actually had 2 or 3 days in a row of 100. So I really don't think it's something, you know, to be concerned about. Your plants will pick back up as soon as it cools off a little bit. Another big issue that everyone who grows tomatoes will probably experience is blossom end rot. So blossom end rot is when your plant does not take up enough calcium. A lot of times you'll find that with blossom end rot, it might be your first set of tomatoes you get off of a plant. And as soon as you notice those tomatoes that have that they'll have like a big old brown black spot on the bottom of them. I don't have any here. I looked and I didn't see any, but you'll know. I mean, it'll be a big old spot in the very bottom. And as soon as you see those, pull them off because they're not going to be edible, and you don't want the plant using any of its energy to ripen those sort of fruits that you can't use. If you just find a few tomatoes that have that blossom end rot, it's not a big deal. Pick them off, and usually their next tomatoes, their second flush of tomatoes, will be completely fine. It can be caused if there's a lot of rain, because that will inhibit the plant of taking up the calcium it needs. Now, if you happen to see multiple plants having these kind of issues, and especially multiple varieties, and maybe they're planted all together, or maybe like half of your row is having issues, or maybe all of your tomatoes, then at that point, you need to look a little deeper. You may have something going on in your soil. Getting a soil test will tell you if you have enough calcium, because if it is calcium deficient, you're going to see that blossom end rot on your tomatoes. I think the key to kind of fighting against any kind of pest pressure you have or disease issues going on with your tomatoes is just finding it early. You know, check your tomatoes daily if you can, because you'd be surprised how fast something can happen with them. You know, one day they look good, the next day something's going on. But if you can catch these things early, there are absolutely things you can do to take care of some of these issues. Some of my favorite things for pest is diatomaceous earth and also neem oil. I really like those. I've had really good success. I used that neem oil spray when I found all of that flea beetle damage on my tomato plants just like 2 days ago. And when we were just looking through there, I don't see any more flea beetles right now. So I've trimmed off everything that was damaged. I've used the neem oil, and now every day I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be checking and see if there's any new damage. And then if that's the case, I will reapply that neem oil. And we're kind of getting into that season. So if you happen to see your leaves and they're being eaten by something, and I'll tell you what, these tomato hornworms can strip a plant once they're full grown in like a day. So if you're having those kind of issues where something is definitely eating your plants, if you can't find them during the day because they're green, they can be very hard to spot. Go out at night with a black light and pick off everything you possibly can, because those guys are destructive. Something else I like to do is when I see my plants struggling, whether, you know, if it's environmental, pests, I'll go ahead and fertilize them while taking care of the other issue going on. I'll give them some fertilizer, and that really seems to give them a little bit of a boost. I like to use just kind of an organic tomato fertilizer. I have used fish emulsion, which is a liquid and you mix it up, but that is a little bit hard to do when you have a lot of tomatoes. It takes a lot of mixing over and over again, because I don't have like a big, you know, container to put it in. I'll mix it by like the gallon. So that takes me a while. All right, I think that is it. Please let me know if you have any questions, concerns that you're having in your garden. We can all learn from each other. And there's totally different things going on in different parts of the world and the country. Everybody's kind of dealing with different things. You know, we're very humid here, so we deal with a lot of, you know, we got a lot of fungal things going on. But I know some people maybe in drier climates just don't deal with that sort of thing, but maybe you deal with something else. All right, that's it for today. If you want more garden tips, how-to tips, please subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you next time.